Before we get into this episode, I would like to make a quick disclaimer that all of Society Inspired's interviews and the information we share are 100% for learning experience and to hear the different sides of the various issues we discuss. We never endorse nor support violence, and we are committed to promoting peace. I want to create a safe space for learning and comfortable place for people to be able to start to speak. Hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th episode of Society Inspired. My name is Gemma. I am 14 years old and a Palestinian American teen. I am super stoked to have Kathryn Parman, aka KK, a fellow dancer of mine and an LGBTQIA plus activist and member of the community, as our special guest for episode number 5. Would you like to introduce yourself, tell us your story, and also share your preferred pronouns, please?
Yes. Yay. Hi, Gemma. I'm Kathryn, or KK. That's how I usually introduce myself, but both work. I use all pronouns, they, she, he, or anything else that is considered a pronoun. I'm cool with it. I over the past couple years have really come to accept myself. So I'm pretty new to just actually believing that I'm valid in my existence. But I have over that time realized that I'm not just attracted to the opposite sex, but to a lot of other humans and genders, and it's amazing. And also that I'm not necessarily fully identifying with the gender that I'm expected to be based on what I was assigned at birth. So yeah, I identify as non-binary and as bisexual. But I think that both of those things are very fluid in my experience.
Yes.
And yeah, I also just want to say it's very obvious, but I'm white. So I definitely can't speak for a major part of the community who does fall into different categories and different marginalized groups as well and identities. But I'm down to share my experience as a white queer person.
Great. Okay. We're just gonna get right into it. Cool. So I see you sharing many resources to protect and respect members of the LGBTQIA plus community. So that's why we want to talk about inclusive language today as a huge part of that, which will start our discussion. Could you please explain the importance of respecting someone's pronouns and how somebody might choose their pronouns?
Yeah, this is something that's super important to me, and I've been just really lucky to have a lot of support around me when it comes to my identity. But in general, there's so many really important things about just choosing to respect someone's pronouns, literally it's just validating your experience. It's recognizing that you see them, that they exist how they are, which is important for someone's mental health, important for someone's physical health.
Yes.
Literally suicide prevention, because we could talk about how many people in the queer community just feel invalidated consistently enough to not want to be here anymore. Right. So respecting someone's pronouns is such a basic thing that you can do to just acknowledge someone in their full existence, basically. To sum that up. And for me, when people use all the pronouns that I like and that I tell them that I use, it just makes me feel again full and complete and validated, and it's amazing. So I want everybody to feel that way, and I think pronouns are just a really base level, foundational level place to start and grow from there, and they're really easy to exchange.
Yeah, it's definitely has come to people are starting to recognize it more. Which is really cool. How would somebody maybe choose their pronouns, would you say? Just by
that's a question that I feel I can answer from myself, but something that is really helpful in the understanding for it is really just that your sex does not equal your gender, does not equal your identity. So there's three levels to it. Of course, they can equal each other. They can they can fit together, but also sometimes they are different levels to yourself, and that's super valid. So I feel like people choose pronouns either based on their expression or their identity for the most part. If someone, wants to express more feminine, then sometimes they feel validated hearing she, her pronouns because we've decided as a society that those are the words that we use to describe someone who looks feminine. Same with like someone who looks masculine or manly, like sometimes they like he, him, but also sometimes none of those things are true.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to that person's choice. Like it really is how it makes most sense in their brain, how they feel most validated.
Yep.
And for me, since I just feel like I experience like all genders and no genders, being referred to with every single pronoun like is validating because it feels like you are acknowledging the same way that I feel about myself to me, which is great. If that makes sense.
Yeah. How would you start a conversation with someone if you weren't sure of their gender or what pronouns they use?
Yeah. This is, I think, like something that I also hope continues to happen. Like it's already starting to happen in my life, but I know it's not universal yet. But just like starting conversations with your pronouns, like making all your introductions to every person that you meet, just like, hey, I'm KK, I use all pronouns. Like, what pronouns do you use?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, I could just be like, hey, Gemma, like, I'm KK, I use all pronouns. Like, what pronouns do you use, or what do you want me to use for you? And then you can just be like, she, her, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, and then I would just be like, yeah, guys, this is my friend Gemma. She uses she, her pronouns. Like,
I was gonna add pronouns here. Thank you for reminding me.
Turns into that. Same with like, even if you're communicating over the internet, in especially this COVID day and age, like having pronouns in your Zoom, like name, having pronouns in your email, like signature, having pronouns in your like bio or heading on social media platforms, like all those places just make you honestly like a trans inclusive person. It doesn't mean that you're transgender, but it just means that you're easing that transition for everybody who doesn't use maybe the pronouns as someone might expect them to be able to share them.
Okay.
Yeah, some people don't feel comfortable though either. So no, like if someone doesn't feel comfortable sharing their pronouns, like the best thing you can do is take that to a private conversation or a private space and then just be like, hey, these are my pronouns. Do you feel comfortable sharing yours? Because I would love to know and like love to refer to you as the way that you would choose to have me to.
Yes.
But it's definitely a journey for everybody. So yeah.
Because what I see people saying is it's an awkward conversation to bring it up because you don't want to offend anyone while you're asking, which I can see, but that isn't an excuse to not use the correct pronouns for someone. So introducing yourself with your pronouns. I'll definitely start doing that. I haven't thought of that. Many people, how do I word this? Because I'm looking at the way I worded it. Many people who are not within the queer community don't realize when they are making homophobic, transphobic, or queerphobic language or comments. So if someone comes in contact with these messages, how should people who are not a part of the community respond? How to reword that a bit.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Like, yeah, that's exactly what they should do. They should address it. As long as you yourself know that it's like not a nice thing, it's a harmful thing, or it's an offensive thing for somebody, whether they're around or not, like the best thing you can do is address them. And I think like you said, most people don't realize like their intention is not harm and their intention is not to offend, but they didn't realize that. So I think knowing that, first of all, like we have as humans implicit and unconscious bias that we like speak from, right? And that comes in like all areas of our life. But specifically when it comes to like the queer community, I would say that as long as like you have the capacity, if you're a queer person, like in general, maybe you don't have the capacity to address all those things yourself, but if especially you like have the capacity to address it and it's someone you trust, just let them know like, hello, that was not a cool thing to say, basically, and just like starting a conversation instead of like just a call out, like, make sure that it's a time where you guys can both meet and talk about why like it wasn't a basically nice thing to say.
Yeah.
I've learned from a few people on like good ways to do that. And some of those are like sharing your journey, which is like starting from like, oh my gosh, totally hear like where you're coming from, because I used to say things like that too, but I've learned this. So I just want to share that with you.
Yeah.
Right. Like easy way to just be like, I came from exactly where you are, and I learned that there's better ways to say that. So here's what I can recommend. Obviously you can ask for clarification, because again, sometimes people don't mean it and they didn't realize what they said. So you can be like, hey, did you actually mean to say this? Like,
Yes.
cool. Okay, you didn't mean to say it like that. Okay, like let's reword it. Let's say it better, because like mistakes still happen.
Yep.
And another one that I liked is just separating the intent from the impact. Because again, intention like
Yes.
goes away when something is harmful, right? It doesn't matter if you like meant good, if you were offensive or harmful. So just letting them know like, hey, no, I totally understand that you didn't mean that, but this is how it came across, right? And like going forward, you don't have to do that.
Yes.
So those are some of my favorites.
Yes. The thumbs up. It all starts with a conversation. That's our
exactly.
yeah. It started it. Like it's awkward, but start it. Because change for the better. I was wondering if you could give a few examples of some microaggressions that can be harmful to the community and how we can change them to turn them into inclusive questions, kind of backing off, starting that conversation.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of angles to this. Again, like inclusive language is a whole thing, and I'm still learning too, but definitely when it comes to like the queer community, obviously a lot of folks here experience gender differently or don't identify with the gender that most people would assume in this current day and age. Yes. So like even gendered language, like referring to someone as a male or a female, is bothersome to me. Like ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and ma'am. Like there's been times, you know, where those things were seen as like polite almost, or like, you know, calling someone Mr., calling someone ma'am. Like when I hear someone call me ma'am, I'm like, please don't. Like I'm just not.
I see, yeah.
So it's just more like challenging yourself to address people without gender as often as you can is already a step towards inclusivity, especially when you're talking to groups. Like you can just call everybody people or humans or folks or friends. Like there's so many words that don't have a gender assigned. So that's one. And you can also like Google it, because now there are so many resources for like, how do I address somebody without gender? Like
Google is free.
Google is free.
Google is free.
It's so amazing. So that one's really good. Obviously it's been historically a stigmatized part of the gay community, especially gay men, for like STIs and HIV and AIDS and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I like to bring up is like when you're talking about test results or when you're talking about STIs, saying that you're clean. Like just that in and of itself can say that everybody who does experience life with an STI is dirty? ? Like it's not a cool way to address that. You don't have any STIs.
I haven't heard. Right. Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I've heard about. I didn't know people thought that though. Wow.
Yeah. No, there's a thing. People will be like, yeah, I'm clean when it comes to drugs, when it comes to STIs, when it comes to anything like that has that stigma. But it's like that automatically somehow puts everybody else in a group of being dirty ? So it's not cool. So all you can just say is that you got tested and you don't have any. Like you can just solve it by being specific and just being like, yeah, I got tested for STIs and I don't have any. Like great news for me. But like it's just being specific. Like every time you add more specific language, it basically can get more inclusive because it leaves out the other options basically.
Yeah.
Cool.
And something else I've heard recently is that, well, everybody is like, it's like, why are people nowadays so sensitive about this? And it's not sensitivity. And yes, it will take time to make these changes, but these changes have been needed to be made for a long time, because people now, the reason that we see a difference is because people now are feeling more comfortable being openly themselves than people in the past have felt. Like, yes, there's always been a community, but it seems to grow, and it has seemed bigger, and especially with social media, people are finally like feeling comfortable expressing like, these are my pronouns and this is my journey, and we need to all be inclusive. This isn't a new thing. This is just people nowadays feeling more comfortable, which shows that even more we need to be inclusive. I just want to add that this is not a new thing, because people think, oh, everyone's being so sensitive now. It's not a sensitivity thing. It's just comfortability, and it's bigger now than it has been before. So to follow up on that question, because I just keep following up on everything. So a point of this, I wanted to discuss some of the ways the queer community is currently being harmed and oppressed on a systemic level internationally. I could not speak. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You did great. That was awesome. Yeah, we can talk about some of the ways, because there's a lot of ways. But I got some numbers for this to put into perspective some things. So first thing I did was I went to Amnesty International, which is right now the world's largest grassroots human rights organization. I love them. But they have some work that they're doing to make sure human rights are upheld for like the LGBTQIA community. 23, I found out this today, I didn't even know this was happening in Europe, but 23 European countries require transgender people to be sterilized before their gender is legally recognized, which already is scary to me. And then we have, this is definitely part of the queer conversation, that over 47,000 pregnant women are actually dying every year due to complications from unsafe abortions. Just anybody with a uterus, right? Like, we got to keep that in the conversation. And then we have over 76 countries right now still criminalizing acts between adults of the same sex, meaning like it's literally illegal to be gay in 76 countries, and like hold your partner's hand and be out in public as a gay person. Like, that's so scary. You know what I mean? Like, those people live in fear every single day they're going to be caught for loving who they love. So that one in and of itself is a whole thing. And then I wanted to talk about too, just within the United States, because especially over the past year, we've seen a lot of anti-trans legislation like get introduced. And when I say that, there are only 14 states that have not introduced anti-trans legislation in that time. So of those 36 states that have introduced legislation like this, 9 of them were actually successful in passing those bills.
36.
Yeah, so 36 states over the past like year or two have introduced like anti-trans legislation, which is mostly targeting kids and students, like people in college or lower levels of education. And it a lot of times, for some reason, having to deal with sports. I still don't get why the law cares so much about little kids playing sports, but they literally are trying to make sure that trans women and trans girls can't play sports with girls and women in a lot of these bills. And then also healthcare is a huge part of it. Like, trans inclusive healthcare has just been like targeted by so many of these bills, saying that if you're under 18, you can't receive affirming healthcare for your gender if you are transgender. So yeah, 9 of those states were successful. 5 states actually have bills in the process, one of them being my home state. So Wisconsin, get your things together. And then 22 of those states actually, like, those bills were shut down before they were passed, or the session expired, meaning just like they weren't talked about for long enough that the bill became basically dormant for now. But still, like, 36 states in the United States, which is supposed to be the safest country, supposed to be the place, home of the free and all the things, is trying to put so many limitations on members of the queer community. So definitely talked about those. And I got those numbers from Chris Moiser, who's a trans athlete.
Okay, I think we lost KK. This just shows the day and age that we are in. And so I'm going to...
Hello.
Oh, you're back. Hey.
Can you hear me?
I was about to just call you.
When did I cut out? Did I cut out? Because you
Yes.
froze on my side.
Oh, so we both were like done. We're good though, I think.
You heard all the numbers. I was just wanting to say where I got them. I got them from transathlete.com/take-action. And this amazing trans athlete named Chris put those together. So it's a really good place. It has like every single state's bill and like if you can still take action and what action you can take to help make sure it doesn't get passed. So I wanted to plug that. Next question.
Yes, it's just bizarre to me. I can't believe people care so much. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. I was literally about to call you. I was like, girl, I can't hear you. But we're okay. This shows the day and age that we're in. Okay, let's get back into the conversation. What do you see for the future for the LGBTQIA community when it comes to the language we use, language usage? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think the future is coming true right now. It's just literally like we have so much access to the information we need being in this generation, in this life. Like you said, Google is free. But on top of that, like living in LA and kind of coming out since living here, I feel like I'm also obviously around and very, very, very privileged to be around like so many more queer people and queer spaces and queer inclusive like people who aren't queer. So I know that like I think the future has to do with a lot of the ways that I'm living right now. Like I go to my job and honestly my job is one of my safest spaces to be queer around like communities that I have. Like everybody introduces themselves with their pronouns every day, you know, like we all feel just extremely comfortable to be ourselves. And I don't think that any queer person who has the privilege to settle for that shouldn't. Like I know some people have to take jobs and have to make money, and that's completely valid because we live in this capitalism thing. But like if you have the option to leave a place because they aren't respecting who you are as a basic identity, like I feel like that's part of the future too. I feel like it's part of now. I would do it. Like at this point, this job has put me on to way too much respect for myself to like ever take less than that from a workplace.
Yes.
So like yeah, I'm very, very fortunate, but at the same time, I want to push other people into spaces that are welcoming and accepting. And in general, like not just for like there's too many intersections with this conversation, but not just for like the queer community, but for the queer community that's marginalized in other ways and for other marginalized identities. Like just we're going to be more accepting. Like the world has no other choice, I think, personally. It really just comes to, honestly, I think the biggest obstacle is just getting the cis straight white man to understand. And then once we can get that to happen, like honestly, that's when we can have like actual acceptance and respect like on a way larger scale, because unfortunately most of the people standing in our way fit into that box.
Yeah.
That's really what we just, again, it's the conversation. We're going to keep this conversation going until it becomes an actual reality for everybody. That's my mission anyways.
Thank you for participating in my conversation. I needed this conversation.
I was so happy.
This was so exciting. Are there any resources you would like my followers and I to read, watch, listen to? I do want to plug that KK does have a lot on her Instagram, the little link that's in her bio. Please look at that, because I spent legit, I'm not lying, I spent 15 minutes just scrolling through, reading each one, just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I didn't know. Like, there's so many. So please go look at that. But if there's anything else, please tell us.
Yeah, no, I try. There's still a bunch of stuff that I want to add to that. But I really try to put everything that I care about and that I'm trying to pay attention to in there. And like I do hope and want people to click on it and look through it because it's mostly just an accumulation of other people's resources that I've put together, that I've learned from, or that I've taken action on and tried to help and still trying to help. But yes, please go there, everybody. On top of that, there's some definitely like really just amazing people in the community that are always posting resources and posting updates, posting information, and posting about their experience, which honestly is a great place to start. Just understanding, a trans person experience, understanding a gay person's experience, understanding an agender person's experience, or an intersex person's experience is like just following them and just supporting what they do and trying to understand how they live. Some of those people are the one that put together those bills for the anti-trans legislation. Chris Moisier, his last name is spelled Mosier. And then Skylar Baylor is like one of my favorite humans ever. He's one of the first trans men to swim at a D1 level in college. Went to Harvard. So he's really smart. And he posts just all the time, super, super well organized, well thought out, and intersected resources for the queer community, for BIPOC. He's Asian, he's Korean, I believe. So yeah, he has just resources for everybody, and I love him. And India Moore, also just an icon. You know what I mean? She's in Pose. She plays Angel, but in life identifies as a she, they, non-binary and two-spirit human, and just shares a lot of their life, their perspective, and things that they experience on social media, which is really cool. So I would say those are 3 people that you can start with, but literally those are just 3 people. And from there, just get lost in rabbit holes of checking out what people go through, even if you don't follow them. Watching Pose is great. Pose is awesome and really speaks to the trans.
I saw it on a billboard a month ago. I looked it up and I was like, I need to watch that.
Pose is great.
Okay. I have your take. I need to do it now. Okay, lastly, where can my followers find you on social media so they can keep up with you?
Yes, my social media is just KK and then my first part of my last name. So Parms, KK Parms. Yeah, you can find my link tree there. My link tree is linktr.ee/KK Parms. That's where all the resources are, but that's linked in all my bios on Facebook, on everything, on Instagram, on Twitter, on all the things that I have. So if you just start searching me, then it will be there. It will be my link tree. And I care way more about you checking out my link tree than actually following me and caring about my phone. Yeah.
I will link KK's Instagram down below with the link tree separately. So you can just go to that if you don't want to go to their Instagram. I don't see why you don't want to go to their Instagram, but
my Instagram is just footwork videos right now, so I don't have anything going on there, but all my stories and stuff.
Repping the footwork community. We love that too.
That's my gang.
So, okay. This was an amazing conversation. I appreciate you participating in my conversation. I said it already, make sure you follow KK, or at least check out the link tree. That's the least you have to do. But following and just watching is amazing too. Also make sure to follow our other social media platforms so you don't miss out on other conversations we have and more important information. I hope you enjoyed the 5th episode of Society Inspired, and we will see you guys in another interview. Yeah.
Thank you, Gemma.